Good morning, everybody. Good kvittel. Um, this is a very special moment, and I'm sorry this wasn't announced ahead of time. I generally send out notifications before I record, but this is a little bit spontaneous. Wasn't planning on doing this, but the current events just demand it, and I'm not even sending this out on my regular mailing list necessarily. I'll leave it up to my wife if she wants to. I'm only going to directly message people I think care, because it's not for the heartless or the brain dead or the people who just want to party tonight. This is for serious people who, care. I have to speak about what's going on. The message of Hoshana Rabba in general, which this would not be the first time that I've spoken about it. And some of you have my Sefer, Yerach HaIsonim, it's in English. Ever see Yerach HaIsonim on all the Chagim of Tishrei. I've spoken about the inyan of Hoshana Rabba in the past. This wouldn't be the first time, especially for some of you who follow me regularly. But I do feel that I'll aim based on Medrash below Chiddush, and I'll add some things which I surely didn't say in my Sefer or in previous Ma'amorim. But what's more important is we have to discuss about this Hoshana Rabba in light of what's going on in Klal Yisrael, in the world, in Eretz Yisrael. It is so in our face that this is the Hoshana Rabba that history is hinging on. And this is not hyperbole. This is real. This is now. And without further ado, obviously, everyone knows that what I'm referring to is that we have President Trump on his way to Eretz Yisrael. There's this deal to finally end the longest war the state of Israel has ever experienced, the longest, not just longest. I understand that there's this thing called the war of attrition, but, it's the longest with the most, with a lot of casualties, along with it, over 1,000 soldiers killed. And as aside from those killed on October 7th, and how the economy was affected, how lives were torn up, let's not forget about the wounded and the maimed. This has been horrible. And of course, it also, it really put tremendous strain on Israeli society and caused tremendous tension with the yeshiva world that do not serve in the army. This has been bad stuff. And it's been for 2 years. It's a very long time. And we do have to go back and deal with comments that I said that were widely unpopular because no one wanted to hear it. That the very fact that this war broke out on Simchas Torah, is of tremendous negative significance, negative to us. And I said it back then, and it fell on deaf ears, that that it was the biggest slap in the face from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he told us that our Rosh Hashanah that year was nothing, and our Yom Kippur was nothing. It was all nothing. It was all one big show. It was all one big fake. Because the inyan of Simchas Torah, the inyan of Shmini Atzeres, right, is that this is the day all the goyim go home. We are Makiv Shivim Param Keneged Shivim Umos, and in the future, like we read in Haftarah on Sukkot, all the goyim are supposed to come for Chag HaSukkos, and this year it's happening in a certain way. Hashem help us, right? They're all supposed to come, and show submission, of course, right? In a positive way. I don't know if this time they're coming to show submission. That's why a lot hinges on this Hoshana Rabba, right? But, during Sukkot, they come to show, but Shmini Atzeres is just us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu alone. Let's go roll in whatever's left over. Par echad, ayel echad. Just, which we explained in our Sefer, leftovers means what's going to be left over for the Elef HaShmini. Because in the Elef HaShvi'i, 7th millennium, the whole world goes, kaput. Climate change, Marco says, so it's say Krafayim v'shatim al pnei hamayim, usof Elef Shana and the Elef HaShmiya chozu mechar shama, and only we're there. We're Masha Nishar. That's what's alluded to on Shmini Atzeres, the 8th millennium. just us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not us alone. And, the Goyim are behind us, them and all their Kitrugim, how they are always out there to stick it to us, not just on earth, but in Shemayim, their ministry. It's all behind us. It's after Hoshana Rabba, the big saving. They all go home by the end of Hoshana Rabba. They're behind us, just us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All the dinim are over. It's a kulo simcha, right? And on that day it happened, to show that it all failed that year. That the Rosh Hashanah was nothing, the Yom Kippur was nothing. It was all nothing. It was one big fake. Right? Obviously, not a very popular message. Right? But so now, conversely, right? Not conversely. That's not the right word. I don't know what the right word is. But now this year, this big thing, this war is hopefully coming to an end. It's all totally va'omed on Hoshana Rabba. This is big. And it's just amazing how it just so overlaps with the whole inyan of Hoshana Rabba, of what it is and what we're trying to achieve tonight. And tonight's not a night for partying. And all these people are doing a civilization tonight, they have to cancel it, right? They have to go and spend the whole night in the Beis Knesset. Sadly, Beis Knesset or your home, it's not a good sign that here in the Northeast of America, it's a stormy night, because it is a big inyan to be in the sukkah and to do the tikkun in the sukkah, because the sukkah kaidu is the makifim of Bina, right? Which is the midah of Yom Kippur. It's the midah of Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur is Bina, right? And because it's so the sukkah is an embassy of Yom Kippur, call it, and that's this day we're trying to get kapara. Right, trying to get kapar. So our last opportunity to set things right before everything gets sealed, and we're going to explain that, right? So, and it's not a good sign that we can't sit in our sukkah tonight, right? That's not a good sign, but it's not insurmountable. There's an encha davar ami b'fnei tshuva, right? But it's a night to this, any Hoshana Rabbah is a very serious event, right? But this is probably the most, significant Hoshana Rabbah since the Galus started, and it's just in our face, right? What's going on right now, right? And what's happening in the world. It's so the inyan of Hoshana Rabba. This is amazing, right? So let's just talk, certain kavim klaliyim about the inyan of Hoshana Rabba that we've said in previous years, but now, in Beis Resh B'lo Chiddush, and of course it's only a shemetz. It's only a tipa min hayam. We're barely scratching the surface of what's brought down in the Zohar and in Kisvei Ari. We're just, just a little bit, just a tam of what Hoshana Rabba is, right? And you'll see that what's going on in the world and what's happening in Eretz Yisrael Befrat is the whole inyan of Hoshana Rabba. It's mamish in our face, and we have to on this night, right? Just be mosif chayil, right? Not sleep. Right, do everything we can to make the chaysom in the first half of the night, and to be chayzer b'tshuva, right, the rest of the night, and tomorrow also, the whole day is mitzaref, to change, because the pitka is only mamish delivered on Shmini Atzeres, that's post delivery. It's only so there's still time the whole day, even though the ikar tikkun is in the first half of the night. Kayadu, that's when the chaysom is made, right, and that's, you should be grateful, because that's your insurance policy. I got to go to Mishnah Torah by 8 p.m. and I don't want to be late, so this video will not go into overtime. And those who could hear Mishnah Torah should hear Mishnah Torah, lane Mishnah Torah yourself from a chumash. But the occurs to do tshuva, but of course to make the final chaysom. But let me explain the inyan, okay? From Rosh Hashanah. We're mamlich HaKadosh. It's Rosh Hashanah, that's Yom Adin, and that we coronate HaKadosh. These are not disjointed ideas. They're one and the same, right? Because the Rebbe Shal's Malchus on earth is the Jewish people. And we have to live up to our task. And that's what the din is. Do we fit? Are we with the program? Are we doing what needs to be done to renew the Rebbe Shal's Malchus? And of course, Rebbe Shal's Malchus is reflected by one heavenly body, one celestial body, and one earthly body. It's, the moon, the Levana, David Melch Yisrael Chai V'Kayim, right? right? It's the Levana, and it's also Eretz Yisrael, Bechlal, Yerushalayim Befrat, the Beis Hamikdash Prote Protus is the Midah of Malchus, Midah of Malchus Shemaim, and that's why Gamliel and Yeshiva Ba'azar L'Malchi Beis David Bilvad, right? Because they represent Malchus Shemaim, that's why they could sit there. That's their place, right, in the Azor, right? We're building the Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're building Malchus, and of course it's a din. Are we worthy? Are we doing it correctly? And of course, also the Midah of Malchus is in essence the Midah Sadin, Melech b'mishpat Yamid Eretz, law and order. The kingdom of heaven demands a certain law and order. Run the world the way the Rebbe wants it. He's king, run it his way. But of course, it's the Midah Sadin that's mitzaref to Rachamim. Hashem levadcha, Mochalein Hashem levadcha b'chesed u'v'rachamim. The Midah Sadin wants to be added to Midah Sarachmim. When everyone's on the same side, Melech b'mishpat Ya'amid Eretz. He supports the world. The world is built on the Olam b'machshon. Livro Midah Sadin wasn't a mistake. It was actually the foundation of existence. And then the Midah Sadin itself is mishtativ with Rachamim to finish it off. Add flexibility, because you got to grant flexibility to make sure, that the project of Malchus Shemaim succeeds. The Midah Sadin of Shemaim is very happy. And first of all, it comes from the Ratzon Lehetiv. The Ratzon Lehetiv is the original cause of the Hishtalshlus Habriya. And from the Ratzon Lehetiv comes the Olam b'machshon Bars Midin, and then Shita Midas Rachamim Ubra'ah. Right, the Midah Sadin of Hashem wants to be added to Rachamim because it originally it is spawned from the Ratzon Lehetiv, beside Avram, who's the Midah of Chesed, Holy Des Yitzchak, who's the Midah of Din. Right, it all comes to be native to, and we explained this a lot of times that the Midah Sadin gives firmness and taikef to creation. If creation would be nivra and Chesed alone, it would have no firmness. It would have no solid foundation. And the Midah of Malchus Shemaim, which is the final outcome, it is the Midah Sadin that's mitzdarf, the Midah Sarachamim, and it finalizes with Malchus, Kayadua. Right? The Malchus, of course, it's Be'ikr Din, to give firmness, control, law, order, all good things. And it adds flexibility, because sometimes we step out of line, but hey, since we're all on the same side, of course, after all, it comes from the Ratzon Lehetiv, and to create, not to destroy, to create. Right? So, we're all in the process of building Malchus Shemaim, and the Rebbe Shalom has only one kli for Malchus Shemaim. That's Am Yisrael. And Am Yisrael has only one place, which creates the total cosmic alignment, that the Malchus Shemaim is at point center of reality, and from there it can affect everywhere else. And that's Eretz Yisrael, Bechlal, Yerushalayim Befrat, and Befrat Protus Tahara Bais. That's the Nakud of Malchus, which is also called Shechina, right? And everything is a part of the process of building the Malchus. First Bedin, right? And that's and the Midah of Malchus Shemaim on Ne'ilah got its first seal, that got the Chamisha Gvuras, right, connected from the 5 tefillos of Yom Kippur, got the Chamisha Gvuras that build it up. But now we have to give it the Chasadim. And that's what we're makif on Sukkot, to give the Chasadim, to fully build the Malchus, right? And that's why Yom Kippur, as it were, as an extension. The Sukkah is the Or of Bina, the makif of Bina, but we have to also internalize it, and that's the Daled Minin, that to internalize it. And that's why it's connected to the Midah of Das, which internalizes, right? And the Makam Mikdash is the side. The Makam Mikdash is why Lulav is Doiraisa all 7 days. But Makam Mikdash is the Makam of Malchus per se, right? So the Lulav is more about internalizing. The Sukkah is about surrounding light, and the Daled is about, just like we hold it, it's connected to Tzuras Adam, it's about internalizing, bringing it into the tzelem of the individual and bringing it into the world. And that's why we say Hoshana, right? Because we're still in competition with the Goyim. The Goyim want to appeal. They want to appeal the judgment we got on Yom Kippur. Because Malchus Shemaim has not been fully finalized. They want to appeal it. right? They want to appeal it, right? And so they're mekatric, but so we say Hoshana, Kodesh will save us from their appeal, how they're still mekatric, how they want to, they want to, as it were, appeal the good din, that the good chais, the initial chaisim that we got in Yom Kippur. So it has to be further developed. There has to be an outer seal against all the ketrugim of the Umas Olam. That's the chosam that's made on Hoshana Rabba, the outer seal, to make that the Malchus Shamayim, the meat of Malchus, that on regarding the meat of Malchus, it says Ragleha Yordos Maves, right? It's the Nukva that Ragleha Yordos Maves, right? That this is where the Goyim have an achiz on the meat of Malchus. And by the way, that's the secret that the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim puts all the halachos of Bnei Noach in Hilchos Malachim. What are Goyim doing in Hilchos Malachim? All the Goy, halachos of the Goy, is it? Because the meat of Malchus encompasses everything. Beside Umalchuso Bakol Mashallah, because Mashallah, even though against their will, but the meat of Malchus Shemayim, that we are Mamlech HaKoshu B'Bchira, right? But Malchuso Bakol Mashallah, even against their will, the Goyim are rained upon by the meat of Malchus. Beside Esther Hamalka, who was the Merkav Midah Malchus in her generation, she called all the shots in Beis Achashverosh. Even when Shchinta Begalusa, the meat of Shchina, which is Malchus, is in Galus, it's like the very influential prisoner that calls all the shots, and the warden does whatever that prisoner wants, because he's the big guy. All right, that's Esther Beis Achashverosh Malchus, but it's against their will. Malchusu Bakol Mashallah, right? But you have to also have a seal on it. It has to be, as in the words of the Chemda Sayomim, Alpi Kisvei Ari, has to be choisam b'toch chosam, like your glat mahadrin meat, choisam b'toch chosam. There's a chosam Yom Kippur, and there's the choisam of that we make on Hoshana Rabba, the external chosam, which is beside Malchus Sheba Malchus, right? The choisam Yom Kippur is Yisoid Sheba Malchus, and this is Malchus Sheba Malchus, the outer seal, double protected, that the goyim, they can't penetrate, doubly protected. Like your mahadrin meat has to be choisam b'toch chosam, right? So that's that's the Indian of the Hasidus man Hoshana Rabba. After 7 days of Hoshana, on this day we go all 7 hakafas of being makif and surrounding and protecting the meat of Malchus. That's what the bima with the Sefer Torah represents. The bima is which is instead of the mizbeach, right? And the and the bima is Malchus. And the Sefer Torah is Tiferes, Kayadua. Tiferes is Torah, because Tiferes and Malchus never separate. The Torah is mashpia to the meat of Malchus Shamayim. Right? Bi Melachim Yimlochu. That's the meat of Torah. Bi Melachim Yimlochu. That's the meat of Torah creates the meat of Malchus, right? And it's beside Torah's dinim, which builds Malchus, but also V'rachmana Omar. It's also beside Shira Midas Arachmin, the Tzilu Aida. Torah is also called V'rachmana Omar, and so it's both din and Shito Midas Arachmin, and that's what builds the Malchus. And then around that, we are makif to protect. On this day, all 7 connected, which is the small number of the shivin, 7, small number of 70, to be makif, right, and surrounded, right, and build that choisam. But of course, that's done the first half of the night, cosmically. Befrat, where the whole day is adding to it, and that's why you can do tshuva all day. Really should do your tshuva before chatzos, right? But the whole night's mitzdaref, and even after that, the whole day, right? So if you're going to get this video only tomorrow, you still have time, right? Yeah. So, but on this day we make the second choisam. So Rabbeinu Bechaya, and this is and it's all al pi sod, right? And it's all al pi and the Zohar wasn't the one that invented it. It's in the Ramban on Sar Tzila Me'alem, in Parsha Shlach. The Rishonim knew about it. It was all beside, just like Rosh Hashanah's beside. Really, the Rosh Hashanah is nowhere in the Chumash that's Yom Adin, because it's only for us. It's only for Am Yisrael, right? We don't want the Goyim to know about this. This is our secret to protect us from them. Right? So Shtein Rabbeinu Bechaya, who saw the Zohar is already revealed in his day, but he also was from the Beis Rashba Rajba that were Hege and the Sidus of the Ramban. And like I said, the Ramban in Parsha Shlach talks about this. If I'm not mistaken, on the Pasuk Sar Tzil Me'alem. So, so he points out that this is the 21st day of Tishrei, which is Gematria Yud Hey Vav. Now, what's missing is the final Hey, right? The final Hey, which is the Midah of Malchus, because all these days we're coming to build the Malchus. These are all days that go invested in the Malchus. But it's Yud K Vav K if you actually count from the time the world started to be created, because Yehi Or was on Chaf Hey Elul, 5 days earlier. Rosh Hashanah is the day that Adam Rishon was created, on the 6th day of creation. So it's actually Yud K Vav K from the time the world started being created. Because Sof Ma'aseh b'machshava tchil, we're only counting from the Zman of the Oda creation, because he's the one who does the Avodah. So he's Mashpia, Yud, Hey, and Vav, into the final Hey. That's the recipient. And that's this night. We're finalizing Malchus Shamayim, to protect it, to fully build it, right? And on this day, which is the construction is complete. And on this day, the construction is complete and it's sealed off from the goyim that they can't intrude. And the reason why they should be able to intrude is because the Midah of Malchus is inclusive of all of creation, right? That's why you think they could be intrude. So they have to make a chosam b'tol chosam. And that's how all their kitrugim that they were mekatrik ever since Yom Kippur, right, are finished. Right? This is the night, to make that final seal. And of course, part of the final seal is to, what finally gets us past all the kitrugim is that it doesn't just become an issue of how much good do we do. Now we know that on Sukkah they can't compete. Everyone knows the Gemara, Navod Zor, that HaKadosh was going to test them with Sukkah. They won't last in Sukkah not even a minute, because that's bitachon. But bitachon is what's over your head. Question is on Maisim, which what the Daled Minim represents. Why we say Hoshana Daled Minim, which is a mitzvah that we do with our hands. They also do good. Right? That's where there's room for kitrugim. That's why we have to say Hoshana. That really the real Maisim Tovim is us. What clarifies that the real Maisim Tovim are us? What clarifies that are the Maisim Tovim that you do a reflection of your essence or not? That's what the Arava represents. The Arava represents, we don't have not Torah and not mitzvahs, but it's the pure essence of a Jew that's good. And that's the Midah of Malchus also. Because David HaMelech, Leslie made the Midah of Malchus, Leslie Megarma Klum, it says in Zohar. But David HaMelech, he had no life of his own. He was a Nefo. He was destined to die at birth, and Avram Rishon donated to him 70 years of his life. That's Am Yisrael. We view ourselves as having no life of our own. Hashem, you give us life. Your life is our life. Kiheim chayenu v'arach yameinu. The Torah is our life. But Am Yisrael shows that their essence is good. That means everything good that we do, even quantitatively, because there's so few Jews, but there are also so much more goyim. So even quantitatively, let's say, theoretically, they could do more good than us. It's not the same goodness. Our goodness is a reflection of our essence. Their goodness is, despite the fact that they have a rotten core. And therefore, since our goodness is in essence good, that's what the Arava represents, the essence of a Jew. And that's why the highest Rakia is called Arava. This is all Rabbeinu B'chaya, right? That Am Yisrael's essence is from a very high place, that everything good that we do is more valuable because it's reflective, comes from our heart, comes from our essence. And therefore, what we do wrong is not the real us. That's why tshuva is legit for us. It's not just a freebie. It's legit because it's not the real us when we do wrong. And that's why tshuva should work for us. And that's what's clarified in Hoshana Rabba, that it's that our maisim are better than theirs because they're reflective of a pure essence. Their maisim total are not reflective of pure chesed lumim chatas. The Gemara says in Bava, everything good, it's the garmayo of it, whereas the Midah Malchus lesla migarma klum. Right? We have no we have no ego, independent ego from Hashem. Ushmeinu karasim b'shmecha. Right? We just want to be a kli for Malchus Shamayim. That's what's clarified in Hoshana Rabba. That's the final seal. Eretz Yisrael is the Nakuda of Malchus Shamayim. Generally speaking, more befrat Yerushalayim, more befrat the Makom HaMikdash. right? And on this day, Hoshana Rabba, we're makif 7 times, small number for 7, to make the final chesed, right? All the goyim are coming there. So Donald Trump represents the whole Western world, and right next door in Sharm el Sheikh, right next door, they're all there. And everyone who has seichel understands that we are coming very close to the fulfillment of the haftarahs that we read. All the goyim coming to Eretz Yisrael, right? They're right next door, but it's not just right next door. Don't you understand that this agreement? That, well, first of all, we could have gotten this agreement 2 years ago already if we were zeicha. We could have bombed. It's interesting. They're saying that we killed 70,000 of them. I don't believe the number. But let's just say it's an excellent symbolic number, 70,000 K'nai Shivim Umos, right? We could have done that in 24 hours. I am so unpopular that I'm not worried about this video going viral. I am so unpopular, right? Ashrei Chelki, right? We could have killed 70,000 of them in 24 hours. And also, again, offer to give, we're giving 100 per Jew. Per living Jew, we're giving 100. We could have done this, 2 years ago, but we weren't zeicha, right? Could have done this all 2 years ago. The whole business. Could have done it 2 years ago. Right? We're on Zeicha. And I'm not that I think all that singing Vachenu and Am Yisrael Chai and all those brain dead kumsitzin made the tikkun. Just it took 2 years. All right, I think it's just all Jewish blood that was spilled, that was machaper. Finally, that we get this deal and get our shvuyim out, which is part of the tikkun of Hoshana Rabba. Liberation, right? We're safe. We're saved, right? But on the other hand, right? So he said it's supposed to be the chesam to protect us from the goyim, right? Because after Hoshana Rabbah, they go home, right? This deal is going to increase the Gentile footprint in Eretz Yisrael, not just that there'll be peacekeeping forces, but also influence. They're the ones going to determine whether the state of Israel is in compliance of the deal or not, and they're the ones going to say, "Hey, look the other way. This is we sold this to the world as a success. Look the other way if the Palestinians violate the agreement. Look the other way." It's increasing their footprint in the Makam of Nikud of Malchus Shamayim. That's supposed to get its second protective seal. And by the way, that's what's brought down in Siddur HaShlah. Melech is Rosh Hashanah. Oizer is Aser Shemei Tshuva. U'Moshiach, saved, is Yom Kippur, because Hashem saves us in the big picture. So it goes up, Umagain, the shield, that's Hoshana Rabba. That's all brought in Siddur HaShlah. Right? This is the day of Magain, and on this day, if this deal goes through, which hopefully it will, because we want our hostages back, right? But it involves a penetration of Gentile footprint in Eretz Yisrael, not just bodies, right? But also political influence. They're the ones going to be there overseeing, determining, looking the other way if the Palestinians break the rules. Looking the other way if all the Hamas did was rebrand and just reopen under another name. I mean, that's Chas v'sholom. I hope it doesn't work out. That's why this Hoshana Rabba is just saying it's in our face. That's the Nikud of Malchus Shamayim. They're putting the final seal on Malchus Shamayim, which is putting the final seal on us, because the Jewish people are the real vehicle of Malchus Shamayim on earth, and that vehicle rests in Eretz Yisrael, Bechlal, and in Makom HaMikdash Befrat. And right now, on this day, we're increasing their footprint in Eretz Yisrael, and who knows how it's going to turn out. It's just so in our face. It is so in our face that October 7th broke out on Simchas Torah to tell us how pathetic we were that year. And we've been pathetic ever since, because Gzera Avida the Butler, and it wasn't Batel, when it was the longest war the state of Israel ever had to endure. And if the war of attrition comes close, with the casualties and the expenses, nothing, this is horrible, right? It is so in our face right now that this is the challenge, to make the final chesam, and we need the final chesam, right? Not just, hopefully not just that it should go through and we get our hostages back. It should be a Hoshana Rabbah, that we're finally saved and we save our hostages, right? But we need the Magain, we need the second chesam, because this deal increases the Gentile footprint in the Nekuda of Malchus Shamayim. Technically, now it could be in a way that's positive, that they're machnia themselves and they're Moida ala Emes, and they see Am Yisrael belongs in Eretz Yisrael, right? And they see the rightness of Am Yisrael, and we become Or L'Goyim, or it could be Chas V'Shalom, the stepping stone for, the Mechemes Gog Magog Az Bo Gog Ad Mas Yisrael. It's a real pachad, and it's in our face. It's in our face. And I'm just saying this to everyone who's listening. This is a night. Just cancel. Don't go to parties. Don't go to social obligations. Tonight you try as long as you can stay awake. Mishnah Torah, Tehillim, Tshuva, and for those you'll blame B'Sod Hashem after Mishnah Torah and Tehillim. You do the Idr Zuta. Now this is a night to be vigilant. Right? This is a night, to be on our guard and to do what we can. Right, to build the Nakud of Malchus Shamayim and to build its final protective wall, which is the final protective wall on us. That's why the two are related. Am Yisrael is the meat of Malchus. Knesset Yisrael is the meat of Malchus. That's who we are in essence, and we sit on Eretz Yisrael. We're mamshech the meat of Malchus to Eretz Yisrael, which is the one place on earth that has the kelim to absorb it. Mamish. And I don't have time to explain that right now. All right, I'm imploring everyone to get serious. I myself am running out the door to do Mishnah Torah. Right, everyone get serious tonight. Tonight's night to get serious. Get serious. Right, do tshuva. Because so much hangs in the balance. This is the most consequential Hoshana Rabba since the Galus started. If we do it right, it could be the Geula. And Chalila, right? Hashem Yerachim, Rosh Hashem help. Everyone should be zochah to a pit katava, right? We should see Yeshuas. It should be Hoshana Rabba, right? We see Yeshuas, all right? And we're going to get out of this Galus, and we're going to see Mashiach Tzidkenu, right? The Melech that represents Malchus Shamayim. Mamash, tekef umiyad, amen, ken yiratzon.